What's going on YouTube? Cloverbuzz here, back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're going to be doing another tier list for Regulation C, but more specifically we're going to be updating our tier list for Regulation C. This is the list that we made last month, okay? And so now what we're going to do is, now that we're in the month of May, and now that we just had Portland Regionals as well as a couple other regionals for that matter, right? I feel like now is a good time to update our tier list and see where we're at with some of these Pokemon and see if they're still at the same tier that we originally placed them at the beginning of the format, right? So again, if you want me to, again, I'm not going to go through like every single one of these, like as far as like where I put them. If you want like full in-depth of where we originally put them, again, check out the video from last month in terms of how we place a lot of these mons. But what we're really going to be doing here is just either moving some Pokemon down or some Pokemon up, depending on how the meta has progressed this past month, right? So, but if this is your first time viewing this tier list on this channel, just to explain how we did the tiers, the S tier basically means they're the best of the best. You'll see them on pretty much almost every single team. They're very splashable on a lot of different teams. You can play them in multiple roles. And basically, in other words, they're the best of the best, right? Maybe like top 10 usage as well, like if you look at Pikalytics, and for good reason, right? The A tier, these are just like your solid, very consistent options, okay? You can really centralize a team building around them, and they're very viable, and they'll always give you like solid results no matter what kind of tournament you place them in, right? Because they're very good in terms of their ability, their stats, what they can bring to a team, and as far as like what can they answer or check in the meta, right? Then as we go down into the B tier, these are what we call like viable, solid, consistent options. Maybe not as good as the A, just because they may have a hindering ability, or maybe a not so great stat, maybe like poor speed, but like still very good attack or HP bulk, for example. They may just have like one or two things hindering it that's like separating it from the A tier, or just other words, the A tier Pokemon are just a little bit better than some of these B tier mons, but they're still very good. That you can still like win a tournament, and you can still like consistently top cut with some of these options, right? They're just not as good as the A tier, all right? But still what we call viable, right? Then the C tier is what I call the niche tier. These are Pokemon that you put on a team just to do one specific job and one specific job only, maybe even two specific jobs. But outside of that niche, as we say, they're not very good, and you're better off using like other options. But if you are building a team and you need one Pokemon for a slot to do one specific thing that your team needs, and that's the Pokemon that does it, then that's what we call a niche tier Pokemon. And again, this doesn't mean they're bad Pokemon by any means. They're just designed to do one job well and one job only, okay? And that's why they're on the team. And you can win a tournament, you can win a regional with a lot of these Pokemon, and we'll get into them in a second, just because they have done and they have the results. So we'll discuss each one of those Pokemon specifically as we go through the video. But again, I'm just explaining what that tier is for. And then underneath the C tier is what we call the don't use category, where like, you don't really need to consider your options with some of these Pokemon. Like I didn't even know Sudowoodo was in the game. Same thing with something like well, whatchamacallit. Well, I didn't know Flapple was in the game, or like Finneon, I didn't even know that was in the game. Okay, but these are just Pokemon that, even though they may be your favorite and they may carry you through like story mode, as far as like competitive VGC wise, your best bet is to steer away from these options. All right, so now that we explained the tiers, we're mainly going to be focusing on the S all the way down through the C tier, as far as like what some of these options are supposed to do. Okay, so without further ado, let's go ahead and take a look. Okay, so like looking at our S tier first of all, so basically I'm looking at some of these, and we got a lot of these right actually, and I feel like a lot of them are still where they need to be right now. Like obviously like Fluttermane and Amoonguss are like the cream of the crop. Fluttermane still being, it's actually risen in usage since the beginning of that month, right? It's now like pretty much like 70%, which is insane, right? Like to think about how Fluttermane has actually risen since April, right? But then even Amoonguss, again, this was what kind of pushed Wo-Chien back down a little bit, because Amoonguss is so good at what it needs to do. It's great at redirection support. It's great at healing your Pokemon. It can spore things, of course, put them to sleep. It can even enable your Fluttermane, because now you give it a status ailment, and a lot of Fluttermanes are running Hex now, just to do a little bit more damage than Shadow Ball, because Shadow Ball sometimes doesn't really pick up the KOs that you needed to pick up, right? But Hex does if they are poisoned and or like Thunder Wave or burned. So, you know, Amoonguss can give you that option, right? Okay. Then the Gyarados here. I feel like Gyarados, even though the Iron Bundle has started to rise again, I still feel like the Gyarados is still going to be in the S tier just because of the toolkit that it can provide for a team. Not the offensive set, but again, the defensive set. The Intimidate support, the Thunder Wave speed control, the taunt against an opposing Amoonguss, the flying typing, which gives you anti-Tinglu immunity for that sense. It's just so good, and it gives you something against the other Intimidator, which is Arcanine. So I feel like Gyarados, you know, even with like Terra Steel helping hand stuff next to Earthquake Mons, like another Tinglu or another Garchomp, for example, has really, really good uses. And now even Bulldoze, Gyarados has started to be used next to other flying types as well, and it's also being used next to stuff like Orthworm to be able to heal it and give you speed control. So even though the bundle is still gonna rise, I feel like the Gyarados can still pretty much, at least for now, stay in the S tier. Arcanine, same idea. Arcanine also stays in the S tier. I feel like, you know, again, with the power of Intimidate, and then, you know, Will-O-Wisp for neutering damage, extreme speed, you know, for a priority attack. And then now people are starting to use Howl, for example, you know, to enable your physical attackers. So I feel like, you know, that's pretty much the same. Dragonite can also stay here. Palafin has dropped a little bit, but I still feel like, is it in the S tier? I kind of want to drop it. You know, Pallet balance is still pretty good, and it's still very oppressive, you know it, but because the bundle started to rise again, you know, I don't think it's a S tier. I feel like a lot of teams are opting for Gyarados and Iron Bundle a little bit more at the moment. So for that reason, you know, I kind of want to put Palafin down to the A tier. I don't think it's as broken as it was last month. I think people are starting to figure it out now and are starting to run like Terra Grass options, Terra Water options to be able to wall it a little bit better. And although still very good, I feel like teams are better prepared for it at the moment. And you saw it in the Portland Regionals, right? Palafin only had 4 placements within the day 2 cut, and that says a lot, right? And I can't give you S tier if you only have 4 placements, right? So for that reason, we're gonna bump it down. Chi-Yu still pretty good, and obviously Tinglu as well. I feel like Tinglu is the best of the Ruinmon. And again, these are like not really in specific order. I'm just, you know, putting them according to where I want to place them in terms of spacing. Kingambit, originally I was like a really big fan of Kingambit. It's still pretty good, of course. Is it S tier? I feel like it can be. You can make the argument. Like Swords Dance is really good, especially you know, Sucker Punch priority is really good. But is it S tier still? I think it's still like really good A tier, just like Palafin. So I'm gonna bump that down a little bit and still call it like a very, very strong A tier, or maybe like a very low S tier. But other than that, this is still pretty good as far as like what we originally had. I will bump up the bundle back up here to the S tier. I think a lot of it is starting to rise again. And again, you saw Portland Regionals, 4 of the 8 top cut teams had an Iron Bundle on it. It's being paired with Chi-Yu. It's being paired with Fluttermane. Those are 3 strong special attackers. And then in some teams, it's also being paired with Glamora, along with the Chi-Yu, just to add a little bit more damage and to cover a couple of things that maybe the Glamora doesn't really do well against. Speed control against a Fluttermane is always really nice with Icy Wind support. And now with the Iron Bundle, it's now being used on a lot of those snow teams with Abomasnow, which we're also going to bump up in a bit. But now you have to deal with Iron Bundle on a snow team as well as a balanced team. And it's really, really good on a snow team just because of the bulk it can get from the snow, as well as the Aurora Veil from either itself casting Aurora Veil or the Aurora Veil from the Abomasnow. But does really well against the dragons, does really well against, you know, Tinglu, as well as Gyarados for that matter, Arcanine as well. Even the Chi-Yu, look how great it does against a lot of these things. Even like the Amoonguss, you know, Terra Ice Freeze Dry is going to do a bunch of damage. If not, it would be able to KO it depending on your spread. And you know, if you're a booster energy special attack or speed, of course. It just does really, really well against a lot of these Pokemon, even in the A tier. Look at this. I can see a lot of these A tier Pokemon being dropped to just the Iron Bundle. I think it's really good. Definitely going to bump it up into the S tier without a shadow of a doubt. And now, as we keep going through these A tiers, you know, Baxcalibur for sure, Talonflame, Garchomp, Azumarill. Azumarill had a great showcase in Portland Regionals, and I was really glad to see that. And again, with the Azumarill, you know, you get the Fairy Water coverage, so you get a little bit of your dual cores going in there in your balance teams. You're able to check the Fairy box and the Water box. You know, Priority Aqua Jet is really good with Qianpao. Also, just in general, like Play Rough is really good against the Ruin Pokemon. and it's really good against the dragons. And then the Assault Vest just makes it extra bulky. You get Ice Spinner coverage, and then sometimes you might even run Life Orb. I don't think the Belly Drum set is popular at the moment, but without a doubt, Azumarill deserves to be in the A tier. Now, Wo-Chien is struggling yet again, and this is not the first regional that Wo-Chien has struggled. Does it have some top cut placements? It does, but is it like in your top 8? No, it is not. Is it in your top 16? Yeah, nope. So I feel like it's still good, right? I feel like Wo-Chien's still pretty good into like the balanced teams. So like it just gets walled by like, you know, Amoonguss and certain things, and you're kind of forced to Terra in it in some situations. It's very good in like late game stuff, but you know, it's just so tricky sometimes. But I definitely will bump it down, like maybe even like high B tier. Yeah, I'm gonna say like high B tier. I feel like high B tier is like really fair for Wo-Chien. Like it's still good. Can you win a tournament with it? Absolutely, without a doubt. Is it as good as some of these A tier options? I don't think so. Corviknight and Garganical is still very, very good. Of course, Corviknight, again, when you have a flying type next to like these ground types going for earthquake stuff, you're gonna have some great use in the meta. And then anytime you have Tailwind support along with a Steel move to be able to one-shot a Fluttermane is also really, really good. And then you always have the Iron Defense Body Press set that you can run on Corviknight that can really do well against a lot of the dark types. And then of course you have the bulk up sets where you're just able to boost yourself up and then just deal damage behind your attack and defense boost. And then of course Mirror Armor is really good to deter, you know, the Arcanine and Gyarados stuff. Okay, Sand is really good. Basically, like we said in the other video, all the weather is really good. So Sand, Lycanroc, Tyranitar, they stay as they are. Torkoal is also pretty good. You could either run the Eruption stuff, or again, you could run the set that just won the tournament from Portland, from Joe's team. Also, you know, aka 45 Mice's team, Justin Knox and Santino. They were the first creators of that kind of squad. The Eject Pack stuff with Overheat is really, really good. But not the Lilligant stuff, right? Now we can kind of switch places here with Lilligant and Jumpluff, right? I feel like Jumpluff now has the edge over the Lilligant for sure. You know, the fact that you have Tailwind is just a huge difference maker, you know, when you compare the two. So I think for that reason, you know, we have to make that change. All right, Annihilate Maushold, still very good. Had a great showcase again in Portland. It's just, there's a meme going around, right? Like on Twitter, where turn 1, they can do 20 different things and you just have no way of knowing until the player actually clicks it. It's so good into a lot of the different meta options. You know, the ability to click a fighting move as well as like a ghost move is actually really, really strong. And then the fact that you have the Maushold protecting you with Friend Guard is very, very nice as well. Dondozo, Tatsugiri, very good. I definitely put them still in the A tier, even though they have dropped since the other format, but they're still winning tournaments. They're still top cutting regionals, so I can't really bump it down. I think it's still very good in the A tier for sure, but more specifically, this combination with Glamora, I feel like Glamora really separates, not really separates, I feel like Glamora really pushes Dondozo above the B tier, because without it, I think it is still more or less B tier, just because of the Ruin Pokemon and what they're able to do with it. But with Dondozo, Tatsugiri, and Glamora, now you're just able to deal a bunch of poison damage, put on a bunch of pressure early on, deal a bunch of chip damage, and then once everything has been chipped, Dondozo can just come in the end game and clean things up a little bit, alternate its protects, take more special poison damage over time, and then yeah. Is Dragapult an A tier? I know we had that, you know, Justin Tang winning team with Chen Pao, but since then, has it done as well? Yes and no. Like, has it been top cutting tournaments since? Yes, it has. It's still very good. You're still the fastest Pokemon in the format, not named Electrode. I believe in Portland there are about 5 Dragapults in the top 128. But is that A tier? I want to say it's like, I originally had it as low A, which is still, I feel like it's still correct. But is it, do I bump it down to B tier? That's the question. Like, if anything, it'll be like a high B tier. I feel like, yeah, I feel like that's fair. I feel like now that Bundle's rising again, and especially the booster set, I think that is enough to put Dragapult down a little bit. And the ghost typing, of course, you're not doing so great against Fluttermane. Well, that being said, you are faster than it, but which is what gives you that niche. I feel like it has to be like with Chen Pao, because without it, it's just not so great. But overall, either low A still or like high B. I'm gonna bump it down to the high B tier. Okay. Jugulis. Okay. I know it did what it needed to do like early on with like the Tailwind stuff, along with like having a flying type against Ting-Lu. But since then, I feel like it's still like solid, but I don't think it's like A tier. Like I didn't see it at all in Portland, unless I totally missed it. But the Iron Hands here, very much so. I feel like, yo man, I think I'm gonna put it at the top of the A tier. It's so good as into a lot of different things. Like look at this S tier. Look how well Iron Hands does into a lot of these things, right? You can drain punch this, the Qian Pao. You can drain punch the Ting-Lu. All of these things are weak to fighting, by the way. And then even the Arcanine. Yes, you can intimidate it. I understand that. But you can wild charge the Gyarados. The Floodmane, you just click wild charge, it just dies. Of course, it doesn't have great physical bulk, so you do have an Amoonguss against that, of course. And then the Arcanine can kind of take some neutral hits, but over time, as far as like a lot of these S tier Pokemon, Iron Hands does relatively well. So for that reason, we're still keeping it in the A, but even moving it up into the high A tier tier. All right, B tier mon. So we've added some Pokemon here. All right. I did my best to try and believe in Iron Valiant. I still think it's like the coolest design-wise Pokemon in terms of the Paradox Pokemon. I don't think it's bad. I just think Floodmane just still pretty much outclasses it. I know there's like certain things you can do with Iron Valiant that Floodmane can't do, like for example like Aura Sphere, which is interesting. And you're not completely reliant on a physical attack set. You can definitely go special, with like Dazzling Gleam or Moonblast. For example, I feel like that in that sense it's good. It gets Trick Room, gets Icy Wind, but so does Floodmane, right? So, what is your advantage here? I guess your typing with fighting is okay. But other than that, what else can you really do for a team that Floodmane can't do for you, right? I mean, there is Spirit Break, but at that point you might as well just use Grimmsnarl, right? So, for that reason, I'm gonna... do I bump it all the way down to C? Yeah, I think I do. It's very niche. In terms of what you want out of it, you would have to give it a specific role, because other than that, I feel like Floodmane is just a better mon. Okay, Slitherwing, again, the bug typing is really good against the Treasures of Ruin Pokemon, but is it in the B tier? I mean, not yet. It had some placements. It was interesting on a snow team, but other than that, I feel like Volcarona and even the Iron Moth are just even a little bit better options. But I will not disrespect the Slitherwing. I will still keep it in the low B tier. I still think it's okay. It can be good on the right team, but other than that, I don't think you need to use it over something like maybe a Chiyu or a Volcarona or an Iron Moth. I'm still thinking about do I want to put it in C tier? All right, we'll leave it in the low B tier, but definitely you can definitely put this in the C tier, right? I just don't think it's gonna be like super great at the moment. What the heck, we're putting it in the C tier. All right, moving forward, I feel like a lot of this is also correct. The Goldengo is still okay. Stonejourner had some good showings in Portland, as did the Boo Boo Keys. Even Scizor and Volcarona had their shine on certain teams. Again, very specific in terms of what you wanted to do. Scizor with Bullet Punch is great. You can get Tailwind now, of course. You have bug coverage for all the Dark-type Ruin Pokemon. So in that sense, you're still pretty good. It's also nice with Qian Pao. Volcarona, you could do Rage Powder support. You could do Giga Drain stuff against water types. You can do Overheat Pressure, Will-O-Wisp support. You can do Struggle Bug, weaken special attackers. Your special book is really good. You have Rage Powder for redirection support, like we said. I still think Volcarona is a very good Pokemon. Do I bump it to A is the question. Do I bump it to A? I think it's still like in the B tier. I don't think I'm ready to put it in A. It's one of my favorites, but not quite yet. I still think it's in the B. Indeedee stays as it is. Cerulege also is pretty good. I'm bumping Cerulege to the A tier, honestly. I feel like Cerulege is really good with Gyarados and Baxcalibur teams, or like Gyarados and Ting-Lu teams. Cerulege has impressed me as the format has progressed. It's really good with Shadow Sneak Pressure against Floodmane. You're able to just kill it with the priority move. Great into the Amoonguss, anti-Arcanine stuff. Just because you can't really hit it with Flare Blitz because of your ability. So that's really good. Terra Grass also makes it really good against like the ground coverage that's running around and Amoonguss, as we said. And you're just able to heal back any damage that you get dealt with your Bitter Blade. So for that matter, I think Cerulege is a very viable A tier Pokemon. Okay, Everything else here is pretty standard as it is. Ferrograph and Gothicel are still okay. Salamence is still pretty good. Has some placements, and we also used it on our snow team. I liked it a lot. Hatterene, if you're going to run Trick Room, you know, you definitely use Hatterene over something like the Armarouge. I feel like Armarouge is still like not too bad. Like it's still, I've seen it on those Sand Dondozo teams, which I guess is okay. But other than that, I don't really like it all that much. I think it has a harder time. But as long as you have it in that role, you're setting Trick Room and you are on that Sand team with Dondozo, I still think it's okay. So very niche in that regard. So we'll put it there. Grimmsnarl, again, we did feature that winning team. You know, it's still pretty good. Screen support is still good. Fake Out is really good. Spirit Break can really ruin a lot of these Pokemon's dreams. And even though it's not as good as some of your A-tier Pokemon, and there's Fluttermane running around, it's still very good as far as what it can bring to your team in that sense of priority screens, right? Murkrow, I feel like Murkrow got to be bumped up to the A-tier now. With Murkrow, now you're getting the Sun teams are being stronger now than they were originally, because now you have Tailwind and Sunny Day. So you're enabling the Great Tusk, you're enabling the Fluttermane because of your Sunny Day Tailwind stuff. So for that matter, I think we can bump it up into the A tier. I think those Sun hyper offensive teams are still pretty good. Either that or like a high B tier, right? So it really all depends, but I feel like Murkrow's still pretty good. So I'll keep it in the low A, but it could definitely be a high B tier as we originally had it. I don't remember why I put Iron Treads here, but it's a very, I'm gonna say it's still very specific and very niche if you're gonna be using Iron Treads. I understand it's a steel type, so you have that role for Fluttermane, but you got plenty of other steel types that can do that job a little bit better if that is what you wanted a steel type for. Okay, Iron Moth's still okay. I feel like it's still a little bit unexplored in Regulation C. It was pretty good, okay. It was okay in Regulation B, right? You saw it on those Dondozo teams with Fluttermane, where you're just able to click Acid Spray and just drop special defenses and just sweep from there. You can click Sludge Wave next to steel types. So you might see it on teams with like Goldengo or Corviknight. So there's that regard. It's just a very, very strong special attacker in general too. So I feel like it's still a B tier Pokemon. It's good. Okay. Screamtail. Am I ready to put Screamtail above in the B tier? It's interesting, right? I understand it gets Howl, it gets cool moves like Disable and Encore. I don't know, man. I feel like, does it stay? No, you know what? I'm gonna respect it. It has regional results. I'm gonna say it's a low B tier Pokemon, but at the same time, I'm gonna drop this thing, the Vivillon, to the C tier. Again, you know, Rage Powder, Tailwind, and you know, special attacking bug moves are really good. So for that role and for that niche, it's good. But outside of that, it's not so great. I'd rather just have a Mungus in that regard. But definitely Screamtail is really good. It's very, very bulky and very fast. Okay, you can use it for a screen setter. You can use it for a support move. It has the largest repertoire of support moves out of all these Paradox Pokemon. So for that reason, you know, it's still like, you know, very situational in terms of like, do you bring this over like a Fluttermane? You know, in some certain teams, yes, you do. And because of that, you know, you definitely have a placement in the meta, and a lot of teams have also Top Cut as well with a Screamtail. So we're gonna respect it and put it in the B tier. Anything else here from the C tier want to be upgraded or downgraded? Let's take a look here. There was a regional result with Quaquaval in Portland. As far as like, you know, fighting coverage is great, as well as water. Not too many Pokemon have that typing and can dish out that damage. So niche for you as well, especially with that speed boost Moxie stuff. Dreadnought was okay on that Surf Dondozo team, but outside of that, you don't really see it. Bronzong's a good Pokemon, and now you're gonna start seeing Bronzong on those snow teams. You know what? I'm putting it in the A tier, right? You know, I was originally a big believer of Bronzong when the game first came out. I felt like Bronzong was gonna still find its way, but then it never really got its footing. But then now that I knocked it into the C tier, now all of a sudden it's rising again, and now we're gonna bump it into the A tier again. Again, Bronzong's so good, right? Here's why Bronzong's so good. You're able to put it on those Tinglu balance teams. You can set Trick Room, which makes your Amoonguss and Tinglu attack first, which is really great. Set up those iron defenses and just body everything with body presses, especially all those other ruined Pokemon. You have Gyro Ball for your Flutter Mane coverage. You have Levitate for anti-Tinglu synergy there. So that's really good. And you can't really one-shot it just because it has great bulk all around. So, you know, and of course, like we said, speed control with Trick Room. So Bronzong is really, really good as far as what it can do for your balanced team, as well as those snow teams that are running out with Iron Bundle and Abomasnow. And then you saw Bronzong in it. I know Wolfquake also had that too. So it's got a lot going for it right now. It had some good results in Portland. We can put it in the A tier, or at the very least, high B tier. I don't think it's in the C tier anymore. It's either low A or high B. Okay. Then from here, is there anything else that's yeah, everything is else like pretty specific. I did see Staraptor with Reckless in Portland, but that's very niche. Orthworm. Okay, so does Orthworm still belong in the C tier? I feel like, you know, again, you have the option of Iron Defense Body Press. You have a Steel move, which is again what Bronzong can give you as well. But what separates it amongst the rest is the ability, right? Earth Eater is really good. When you Earthquake next to it or Bulldoze next to it, you're able to heal up. So imagine something against Tinglu, right? You can just auto win that matchup. Same with when you're fighting against Tinglu, Chien-Pao and what's this thing called? Chi-Yu. Now you do have to force yourself to Terra, right, against the Chi-Yu, but other than that, it's still a very good mod. I feel like I can respect it and put it in the B tier now. It's good on some of those balanced teams, especially with like Tinglu. It's good. It was good with Hamster Mania's team with like, you know, Earthquake, Tinglu, and then Earthquake, Dragonite, or Bulldoze Gyarados for that matter. So it has a niche there, but you can definitely make the argument it's high C, but you can also say it's low B, okay? Because outside of those Earthquake teams, you don't really see the Orthworm. I feel like it has a better role. Like, do I want to put it back in the high C tier? I'm still thinking about it. All right, I'm going to put it in low B for now. But Abomasnow definitely belongs in the B as of this moment. Now, just adding bulk to your team is really, really good. Now the Iron Bundle's having great screenplay again. And when I was using this, the Snow team that I made, Iron Bundle was like easily the MVP, especially like that Assault Vest variant where I was just spamming Blizzard and Iron Bundle was just living everything. I had a great time using Snow, and I still do. I still feel like that's like as clover of a team as you get, right? But I digress. You also get grass coverage for some of these water types like Palafin. You can, again, like we said, click Aurora Veil, but you also get stuff like Helping Hand, which is actually interesting. So you can be a support set with like Blizzard, Iron Bundle there, and just have your Blizzard do more damage. There's a lot of different ways you can, you know, put a set on the bottom of Snow, but again, Snow is very viable right now. That defense boost that you get is actually really, really nice. Okay, anything else here that I want to bump up or move down? No, I feel like, okay, maybe Rotom Wash I can bump up to like low B tier. Again, Levitate is really good against Tinglu. Water coverage against it and Arcanine is great. Electric coverage for Gyarados and for Palafin. I think it can do certain teams a little bit better than a Gyarados, depending on how many physical or special attackers that you have on the team. This also gets access to Will-O-Wisp, by the way, so you have that for an option as well. Alright, is there anything else that we can bump up here or move down? No, I think that's it. Tinkaton is fine where it is. Same with Pincurchin. Gastrodon has some use, but not enough to put it in B tier. It's very niche. Anything in the D tier that I can bump up? I don't think so. Someone argued Skullvillain in my first video, but man, just don't even. Tailwind stuff, okay, sure. Yeah, no, I feel like everything else is as good as it gets over here. As far as, and did I miss any? These are all like pre-evolution, so I don't think I missed anything as far as like what is legal and what is not. But yeah, this is pretty much it. So I feel like this is the new current tier list that we have right now for Regulation C as far as the month of May is concerned. Again, I made some changes, but for the most part, I would say about 80% of the list stayed the same. It's just certain teams rose. Which in turn made certain Pokemon rise. So for that reason, we made some adjustments. And again, we dropped a couple of things just because they kind of fell out of favor, since the month of April. All right, but that's going to be it for now, guys. Let me know what you think of this updated tier list. And again, if you're interested in coaching on the channel, if you're trying to go to a regional, if you're trying to get that team ready for online ranked play, feel free to check out coaching. If you take a look at the video description and the comments section, we have a link that you can click where you can sign up for a team building session with me. And then we sit down in a Discord call and we hash out a team. We fix up the EV spreads. And then we may even test it out a little bit in either best of 3 practice or some showdown ladder stuff, depending on what suits your needs. All right. So check out coaching on the channel if that's something you're interested in. But other than that, we'll be back with another video in the next one, guys. Peace out and have a good one.